My name is Jorey Wolfe, and the title of my show is Upsuitable. I decided to select this title because of upcycling, and also I like to make my pieces so that they are specific to maybe one person or something that somebody would want to commission specifically for themselves so that it would be suitable to them. I have worked towards creating a sustainable storefront installation. My inspiration first began in my painting class, and this was one of the final pieces that I created. It's a Van Gogh, and he originally used paint to create texture, and I decided to use protein bags instead. I cut the pieces of protein bags to make petals and the middle of the flowers, and then I painted them and placed them on the canvas. After this piece, I decided that I wanted to get into recycling more and start upcycling more products and materials. After I decided to start upcycling more, I began working with jean material because I had a lot of unwanted clothes that I wanted to change into new articles of clothing. And so this was one of my first pieces. After working with jean material, my curiosity led to beginning to work with different types of materials and fabrics like cotton and sweater material. And from there I moved on to working with plastic bags and packaging. As you can see, I used the plastic here to weave this rug. I used a loom as well that I had created, and some old clothing is also incorporated into that. It could be a rug or a chair cover, whichever you would like. And then also I have the packaging up here, and I turned that into a top that is actually wearable. Finally, I also used plastic bags in my basket here. Using plastic bags to French braid 3 different colors of plastic bags, I then used a zigzag stitch to sew it together, and I also used different tensions to pull the bag up to create a basket-like shape. This process has been a learning experience, starting with learning how to sew and learning different sewing techniques on my own, going to building my own loom and learning how to weave and create my own carpet, and finally learning how to weld to build a high top table. Paper making was one of my favorite processes throughout this entire journey. I really enjoyed the quietness of the studio when I was making paper, and also just the repetitive process that I went through. To make handmade paper, I first took paper board and put it into hot water. This would allow the paper to break down a little bit, and from then I took it and I ripped it apart and put it into a food processor until I got a pulp-like consistency. After I got this consistency, I put it into a larger container and added water, and I took the frame and the screen and sifted the pulp through until I got the thickness of the paper that I wanted. After this, I placed another screen over top and removed the frame and pressed it with sponges until it was mostly dry. After this, I placed it on a drying rack. I placed it on the drying rack because I wanted the paper to have texture and life compared to if I were to just use an iron to dry it, which would actually give you a more flat piece of paper, something that's more real that you would see like that's from a processed place. From the textured pieces of paper that I let dry, I made my own stencil for the flowers and cut the paper out into these stencils, and then next I hot glued them together and then I placed them on this window. I love this piece because it symbolizes the relationship that society and we have with the huge environmental issues that we have today. While the flowers represent society, the frame represents the heavy issues that we are dealing with. The wall represents the earth, and the shadows that are cast onto the wall represent our footprint. The light that is shining through the window is representing life and growth. Every time we use single-use products, we could think of it as the window being pushed up against the earth until the environmental issues fall on top of us. But if this happened, then the light would shine back onto the earth and life and growth would be again. The message I'm trying to convey here is that by using single-use products, we are creating this place that is becoming destructed, but we have the power as individuals and as a collective society to change this fate. Through this entire process, this was the last piece that I created. I got my materials from my farm and also from a junkyard as well. The table legs were from the junkyard and I got them for free. They were originally a little bit different, but I manipulated them to be the height that I wanted so that my table could fit on it properly. I got the wood from a fallen tree and I used a bandsaw to cut the thickness of it, and then I used a chainsaw to cut the length of it. After this, I sanded it down to the smoothness that I wanted, and finally I finished it with a polyurethane gloss.